What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. So, Carl Froch is getting a lot of press lately. He's in the media, in the public eye, and they're wondering, inquiring who his next opponent is going to be. He really says he has two options that he's actively pursuing, I guess you could say. He said there was over 7 or some shit, but 2 that are of serious interest, and that's George Groves' rematch and then Chavez Jr. He said, I will happily fight George Groves again. I'm happy to give him a return provided it makes sense and it's realistic. It's down to Eddie Hearn, my promoter, to make it happen, and it's down to George Groves to be realistic. He also said, if I've got 2 fights this year, and I usually do fight twice a year, one of those I think should be George Groves and one should be Chavez Jr., but probably not in that order. Chavez Jr. is the next fight, the big fight that we're closer to doing. I spoke to Eddie Hearn yesterday, and that fight is pretty much nailed on being done, and I'm happy with it. He also said, Froch said, I'm bored of listening to his whining. He's referring to George Groves. Whining and moaning and cursing. You'll find out I do actually call the shots. Another thing, which we spoke about, was options, and he's talking about all these options that he got. And he also said that George Groves was offered 7 figures, a 7-figure deal for the rematch, and turned it down. So, let me get into all this. My thoughts. Carl Froch, true warrior. He has a hell of a chin. I like Carl Froch. But some of his recent behavior, I don't really respect. Again, take nothing away from his performances against like Taylor or whatnot. But this behavior I don't really respect. He's basically putting all his money, and I understand some people are going to, boxing's the business, trust me, I know. And I've stated that in many videos. But given the circumstance, I would honestly say a George Groves rematch in the UK is not, if not bigger, it's at least in the same breath as a Chavez Jr. fight in Las Vegas. First of all, what the fuck is Las Vegas? Chavez Jr. is a Mexican fighter, and it's not, I mean, Vegas is obviously the strip and the home, and I don't know, maybe Carl Froch wants to go to the strip club and eat some of them chicken wings. Shout out to those chicken wings. But it's not, I mean, it's not like it's all Mexican demographic. I mean, it's a melting pot, kind of like California, a lot of tourists. So typically any fight will do good in Las Vegas. However, it's not like a Texas where you have a high population, high demographic of Mexican fans. In addition to that, Chavez Jr., a lot of people, for his antics, have kind of jumped off of the Chavez Jr. train, and they're putting their coins and their ducats with Leo Santa Cruz's and the Canelos, just some of the fighters that look a little bit more level-headed, less spoiled, and more serious about their craft. If they're picking a Mexican fighter, or a Mikey Garcia who has a fight coming up, should be good with Juan Carlos Burgos. But to me, Chavez Jr. has lost some credibility. I'm not saying he has his father's name, so he'll probably always have some level of a fan base. Cool. But a George Groves rematch, considering how controversial the first one is, I don't see how that would not at least be in the same breath, if not surpass anything that a Chavez Jr. versus Froch fight would have. Now, don't get me wrong. A lot of people get on here and like, oh, Ego, you're a fucking idiot. Roger Mayweather, you don't know shit about boxing. But listen to me carefully. I know what I say because I'm there when I say it. I don't mind a Chavez Jr. versus Carl Froch fight. I actually think that would be interesting. Both fighters have a chin. Both fighters aren't like a Rigondeaux or something where it's going to be a chess match. It's just going to be probably an all-out war. Cool. And we know Chavez Jr. is a big dude. He's fighting a rematch with Brian Vera at 168. I'm good with that. The fight, have no problems with it. However, the thing I have a problem with is some of the statements Carl Froch is making. Very arrogant, very cocky. And he's speaking kind of like a Richard Sherman. Don't get this twisted, because obviously I'm upset my team didn't make it, the Niners. So shout out to the 49ers. But Richard Sherman, if you watch the post-fight interview, he's talking like he's just the god. Like, I seen him on First Take. the post-fight interview where he's like, that's the result you get when you put a garbage receiver like Crabtree do. I'm the best. Like, doing all that, you didn't even really, obviously you had a game-winning play, but you were pretty absent throughout the game. You didn't really do anything monumental other than that. And he's speaking as if he's just that dude. And same thing with Carl Froch. I think Carl Froch is speaking with a level of confidence like he had the fight handedly, like he just had it in the bag. In all actuality, you were behind on the scorecards and no one got knocked down other than you. So Carl Froch, to me, from what I've heard in some of these interviews, he's speaking as if he like handedly beat him. A lot of people think it's controversial and thought it was a bullshit stoppage, myself included. So I think he should make things right in that fight before he pursues other things. Another thing is Chavez Jr., another fucking wild card. Sometimes a motherfucker wants to move couches and watch Nickelodeon while he's like sparring and has these half-ass makeshift workouts. In boxing, sometimes that doesn't cut it. And in the Brian Vera first fight, it was apparent exactly why those types of traits and behaviors is not gonna fucking cut it. These other people are in these Philly gyms or these gyms in like gritty areas with real sparring partners who are trying to come up and look good. We don't have time in boxing for like a spoiled brat who, you know what I mean? And I'm not dissing Chavez Jr. like that. I'm just saying boxing has no room for a fighter not to work hard. Point blank. And for Carl Froch to be putting his money in the basket, yeah, Chavez Jr. should beat Brian Vera, especially if he's serious. And it looks like I've seen some pictures of him. I'll try to post them in a future video. It looks like he has his weight in order. He should beat him. But again, he should have beat him in the first fight too. So who knows what the outcome of that fight is going to be. So for Carl Froch to really be putting his eggs in the Chavez Jr. basket, I get it. Boxing's a business. You want a big money fight. You want to come to, he says he has like some fucking sensation or some dream to fight in Vegas. That's cool. I mean, I understand those aspects, but George Groves to me is just as big of a fight, if not bigger, than Chavez Jr., especially with Chavez Jr.'s recent performances. You lost to Sergio Martinez -1 round. You didn't look good. You look pretty fucking shitty against Brian Vera, trying to box like you're Marquez and be a counterpuncher instead of being an aggressor when you weigh like 30 pounds more than the man. Just not good performances. So for George Groves to be leaning towards that instead of making what's right with the George Groves situation, that's not really respectable. And if any other fighter did that, especially a black fighter, if there was a black fighter that did that, let's say Andre Ward, say the exact same situation that happened with George Groves and Carl Froch happened with Andre Ward and Edwin Rodriguez, we wouldn't hear the end of it. It would be forever, Andre Ward's a bitch, he's a chicken, he's gay, fuck Oakland. Even though y'all wouldn't say that if you came to Oakland. But anyway, that's beside the point. Neither here nor there. But I guarantee you, Andre Ward would never hear the end of it. If he got dropped in the first round by Edwin Rodriguez, and then the momentum was with Edwin Rodriguez for most of the fight, and then Andre Ward came on strong, and then the ref intervened early and stopped it. Some of you guys would not stop taking this man down. You would really find, like, you would like take your lunch breaks just to get on here and talk shit about Andre Ward or whoever. And that's the fickle thing about boxing, is some people bring race into it and all kinds of other stuff, and they don't keep it consistent. They have so many double standards. But I guarantee you, if it wasn't Carl Froch, if it was someone else, a lot of you guys, motherfuckers, you would crucify that person. But if Carl Froch wants to pass up George Groves and not put this to bed and set the record straight to fight Chavez Jr., who hasn't even looked stellar in his last fights, you guys are going to be okay with that. I know I'm going to get some comments like, this is a good fight, Ego, shut up. You know what I mean? But that's just the nature of the beast. Some people are idiots and they choose these double standards that they know good and goddamn well they would not apply to their favorite fighter. It's only one-sided. If you're this fighter, you have this boring style or whatever you don't like about fighter A, the rule applies. But you like fighter B because he's a warrior, because he has a chin, because he comes to fight. So he's immune to the same double standard. So that's really wrapping up what I have to say. Carl Froch versus George Groves, to me, holds more weight. It makes more sense. It's a fight that I think needs to happen. And he's saying that they could both happen first, but this is boxing. He's saying, oh, I usually fight 2 times a year, so I'll fight both, preferably Chavez Jr. first. That's just like you're trying to cash out. And in the sport of boxing, what if Chavez Jr. for some reason stopped you? Now the George Groves fight is less intense. So it doesn't make sense. Why fight Chavez Jr. first? First of all, we don't even know the outcome of Chavez Jr.'s rematch. What if Chavez looks the same, if not worse? You know what I'm saying? So to bank on the Chavez Jr. looking good when he showed you that he's tested positive 2 times for diuretics or banned substances, 1 time for, or 2 times for PEDs, performance enhancing or banned substances, marijuana, and then a diuretic in, I think, 2009. He had the DUI in the Andy Lee camp. He's really a wild card, man. And this is not a diss to Carl Froch, Chavez Jr., Brian Vera, fucking George Groves, nobody. I'm just being real. And I think Carl Froch should definitely fight George Groves first because, again, this is a sport of boxing. What if George Groves fights a journeyman and gets knocked out, or Carl Froch gets stopped by Chavez Jr., or anything happens? You know what I'm saying? Then that makes the fight that should have happened, George Groves and Carl Froch, less lucrative, less interesting. It's just kind of like Mayweather versus Pacquiao. If they had fought when they were supposed to in 2008, 2009, no one could say nothing. The winner was the winner. But since it happened, or if it were to happen now, Marquez beat and knocked out Pacquiao. Timothy Bradley beat him. Plus, Bradley's going to fight him again. We don't know the outcome of that fight. So it's kind of lost its luster, and I don't want that to happen with the Carl Froch-George Groves fight. In closing, I will say this. They're saying they offered 7 figures to George Groves. Some people will be like, oh, it's George Groves' fault. He's an idiot. Not really, because Edwin Rodriguez was offered a high sum of money, more than he's ever made, against Andre Ward, and he turned it down. So people are like, oh, fuck, he doesn't want the fight. This is their careers. This is negotiating. Just because someone offers you something doesn't mean just because it's the biggest payday of your life, you must take it. Otherwise, you don't want the fight. A lot of times it does mean that, but not always, because Edwin Rodriguez in the Andre Ward fight was able to get a better deal by renegotiating. That's what the fuck the term negotiating means. So because George Groves didn't take a $7 million or 7-figure deal, doesn't mean he doesn't want the fight. He could have still been lowballed. What if they offered him like 1.2 million and then they're offering Carl Froch 18 million? Is that fucking fair? No. So of course George Groves is not necessarily going to take it, especially when he feels he won the first fight, or he should have won the first fight had he not been prematurely stopped. So you got to put things into perspective. I don't know the actual financial sum or the amount of money that was offered to George Groves, but you could still be lowballed, because I would look at it like, damn, if the promotional companies, networks, and whatnot have $19 million to actually swing and to deal with, to play with, and I'm only going to get 1.2 million, like, fuck that. Like, why can't I get at least 6 million? You know what I mean? So again, boxing's a business. Let me know what you guys think of this topic. Carl Froch, George Groves, Carl Froch, Chavez Jr. What the fuck do you want to see? As always, leave a comment, hate comment, or subscribe. Till next video, it's Ego signing off.